Katsuki.
And I'm Anya, and this is
What's Your Takeaway?
What's Your Takeaway is an exploration of ideas, insights, and inspiration. It is your food for thought.
And here we peel the onion and unravel the beauty and importance of introspection. Hello. Welcome to
back.
our episode 7. I always mix it up. So this is episode 7. We're very excited to have our guest. But here, Mark, we don't actually introduce our guest in a manner that we tell them about your credentials. We would want you to introduce yourself and what you do and whatever.
Anything you want everyone to know
Yes.
about you.
Yes.
Okay. Like, do I start with like professional things?
Anything.
to
It's
you.
up to you. It's up to you how
Alright.
you want to be known.
And so, okay. So I'm Mark. I think most people know us as, I guess, artists or commercial artists. I started like a career out of making commercial art as part of a duo with my wife, Johanna. And we kind of worked together, and we've been working together since 2009, 2010. Then that practice of working together kind of like grew into a studio. So now we run a very small studio that does many different creative things. But we're based in Cebu. But our work kind of like goes to all of these different places, near and far.
Right. Okay. So to start, Mark, this podcast is really about introspection. And this is really why we invited you, because we know that you practice that. So we want to know, what is your origin story? Or when did you start reflecting on your art, on your life?
So I feel like, so I was very kind of like, so my childhood was very strange. I was just telling you guys. So, so a lot of people like wonder about my last name. So I was like adopted when I was a kid, right? By a very kind man. So then he worked in hotels. And we kind of like moved from place to place every 2 or 3 years. And I was like I would have friends for very short amounts of time and then move on to a new place. So I think it allowed me to kind of like create my own kind of like spaces, or kind of like my own way to kind of namalingaw ko ba? Pwede mo siya?
Of course, yeah.
Kind of things that I would do, like make games or make board games, or invent things, write stories as a very young kid. So kana. And then I guess I was always that kind of person as a child. Although it kind of comes in like waves. Like I noticed like not a lot of people are like that. Maybe maybe they are, but I felt like when I was very young, or like they're different, or they think different, or they talk different. So there's also like a part of me when I was a kid na you want to, blend in. But somehow, as you know,
As you know.
As you know, you didn't
artists
have
are
to.
weird. So kana.
Were you always aware of, that you were different?
So there's also like the strange part, because when I was, so I have, can I talk about this? I'm not sure if I've never talked about this actually openly. Like, so I have like 5 brothers, and they sort of like, they're like, I kind of like belong to their family, right? But they're part of like a biological family, right? But that was like kept from me when I was growing up. So I like all these like different questions, but like my parents didn't tell me until I was like a teen. So there was like a lot of also confusion about, hey, why do I look different, or like and then I don't know, there was like all of these different excuses that I would tell myself, or my brothers would say na, but yeah, I don't know.
So that's how. But in terms of your art, when did you discover that
Like my art has always been with me. Like I remember like like I have there's like Italian lady that now is by chance is now my neighbor.
Okay.
And she's tell me like when I was 6 years old, I would sell her comics for
Seriously?
1 peso. Yeah, like I know you. Like you're the kid that sold me comics for 1 peso. So I was like, really? Like, okay, cool. Like I didn't know I would sell art before, but I was just always drawing and making stuff. And also my mom was an artist.
Right.
I mean, my mom in our family was an artist, so I was also exposed to a lot of those things.
When you were talking about the transitions that you had to experience moving from one place to another, and then the fact that you also realized how different you were, how does that kind of contribute to the kind of art you were making as a child and those comic strips and those comics you were selling to your neighbor? I love how you're a creative but also very entrepreneurial
Right. Yeah.
at a very young age.
Yeah.
So I had no awareness. Like, I was just trying to like draw what I was seeing and kind of like putting them into like these bond paper comic books, and and they were some of them were like based on real life, and the stories were about real life. Sometimes they were fictional. Sometimes they were like, I don't know, before fan art, they were like continuations or like, what do you call it, fan fiction. Like there's like the ending of the movie and I'd like draw that, like, no, that's not the real ending. This is the real ending of this movie. And then I would like draw that, and then the real
Your own version.
Yeah, the real ending of this Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is this comic book. So, man,
That's interesting.
yeah.
When did you know, or when did you know you were creative, and when did you embrace being an artist?
Well, I wasn't good at math. So my teachers told me, I think my teachers opened like my first awareness of like me kind of like appreciating that I could do or write things or make or draw was because of some teachers actually in grade school. Like they'd say like, hey, you're really good at writing or drawing. And then they would like give me things to do in school where I could do that. But I didn't discover it by myself. It felt like a natural thing to do. So mga ana siya. Like, like, oh, like, Mark's gonna do the poster karon. Or like my teacher would let me do I don't know what it's called, kanang, to let you do a speech in like some school gatherings. Oh, because I actually took it the wrong way because my teacher said I look funny. Or Morgana, like I felt like, oh wow, a funny face or Morgana. So
Your teacher said you looked funny,
like,
had a funny face.
Mark's gonna do this because he's like he's funny. Like, whoa, okay.
You could have been a stand-up
I
comedian.
guess so. So Morgana, then of course, like in class, you like do art and you'd be part of like the school paper and things. But mostly it was because teachers prodded me to do it. Like I didn't have that awareness na, hey, I'm the artist here, man. Like it didn't come until later on.
But you eventually embraced it and, turned it into like a way of life. And what's the story there? Like when did it become something that you breathe in, breathe out every day, and something that also became your profession?
Yeah, because I've always kept it kind of like in a side thing until I met Joe. And then Joe, we talked about it and he said like, hey, why don't we put up like a studio or something? And then we wanted to rent a space and we wanted to like all of these things that we wanted to do as a starting creative. We were lucky because Joe's dad during the time, he offered like the space beside their house. That's where we built. It's like his garage. And then it's like he kept all of these. So he had all of these like old, but not many of them. Like maybe he had 2 old Toyotas. And then he sold one and then he gave like the money for it to us to start up. And then the second car he gave to us kay. He thought like we'd need a car to go around. And then that's basically our studio until now. And then, yeah, I think we didn't have any mentors when we were starting out. So it was strange kay, we knew that we were good at, so Joe's a really good painter. And she's good at visual arts. And she expresses herself through that medium. And most of it she just keeps to herself. Like she paints and then keeps it in the house. Then I could draw like kind of like in more like a comic book style. Because that's sort of the way, like I like narratives. Siya kay ganahan siya mga, it's painterly and dreamy and stuff. when we started, wala mi kabaw where to start. There weren't any other studios bitaw na they were doing it. So nagtatanong kami sa internet, and then there were these kanang illustrators that we saw on the internet. Illustrators as a profession, which is very strange kaysa in the West, it's really a profession. It's like, there are like associations and there are like awards. And then we started joining these things from Cebu, like unknowingly, kanang na, not a lot of people from Philippines actually join. And it also cost a lot during that time, like, well, to us. It's like if you send like a drawing, it would cost like, I say a lot, $20, but it was a lot for us when we were starting out because we didn't have money. So,
It's an investment.
Yeah. And it was strange kay when we sent those things, murag, so a few times si Joe, well, she'd win, and then same with me. But it was strange because they would call us and say like, hey, can you come to the opening ceremony in Los Angeles or Ana? While we're like, we're over around the world, across the globe, and namin there's a Cebu and Ana. So it was very strange. It opened a lot of doors for us, but at the same time, kasi when the illustrators join these things, it's sort of like a networking tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I win gold this year, and then you get introduced to art directors, and then to
Galleries,
people who
Yeah.
run magazines, people who run publications, and they didn't know what to do with us.
You're like the odd
Yeah,
team
it's like,
out.
who are these people? Why are they joining our competitions?
Right.
And, yeah, so it's like that's also like a part of us that we were just exploring really, like asa may makasugod og
Right.
start our career.
Something struck me. You said something like you thought that this art thing was just a side. You said that earlier. So what was the main side in your head before all of this anyway? Just curious because I also have that side, it's a side hustle. So what were you thinking about? What was going to be your main thing during that time?
So when we started, there's a lot of photographers. So it's like, we can do photography or we can do design work. But luckily, we gained traction as illustrators and sort of like working as a duo also. It's a very strange time kay if you're an illustrator bitaw, like people hire you because of your style. It's like you have to have a signature style. And the reason for that is like the turnaround times are super fast. And if an art director hires you, he can't risk it. Like I have to know what Anya's gonna make, or I have to know what Katsuki's gonna come up with. Like I want you to draw a mountain and it has to look like your style because I already have a place for it in my magazine. So siya. So when we were starting, we sort of like work separately, and then we were trying to find our own voice as a duo. So
That's fascinating. I think my curiosity is stemming from the fact that how were you able to establish your creative identity individually and then as a duo?
Because it's a very strong identity.
Yes, and you said so yourself that a lot of the clients or the collaborations you engage with are looking for people who already want your style because you already have a vision as to how or where they will use it or place it. But what led you there? Like how did you achieve that kind of creative signature identity?
it's mostly compromise na siya. Like that, also like working with deadlines. And so we would like literally we had one laptop when we started the studio. So strangely enough, Jo's a really night person. Like she only works at night and works through the night. And I'm a super morning person. So she'd start or I would start and then it would get finished in time. And then we'd not, Joe would be like, I don't think that's where we want to go. And ako said, pero deadline naman. So submit it and then like, sino nila judge if it's there or not. And then sometimes you get revisions, but most times, yeah, this is good. And then I think ang workflow develop. There are some things, it's very strange because when you draw, for example, eyes, like Joe draws all the eyes in the drawings.
Seriously?
Yeah, because she draws, and she picks all the colors.
Okay.
And if it's more than one person, it's me that they'll do the drawing, they'll do the illustration.
How did you figure that out?
Yeah.
Na, ikaw sa ayos ha, and I'll
Oh,
take care of the.
na may masuko. It's like, oh, I don't like it. I hate how it looks. So I'm like, okay, ikaw na lang. Then over time, like I can, like, okay, you do the eyes. And then, so if it's like a massive drawing of many people, Joe will be like, yeah, like, I think this is you. Like, ano.
Do you guys, I'm just very fascinated that you're able to work together and complement each other, but to also have those rules of engagement set. Was it something that you had to talk about, or it was just something that organically unfolded, that in your practice, in your process of exploration, you see things where you're good at, like, and see where your strengths are and see how you can complement each other?
Yeah, definitely it was a process. So it was so good. There was a lot of, I mean, like all duos or teams, like you're finding out kung sa gid yung ganahan button. And then, kana sad, like now, it's so strange because more, so I've been strange akong view of time lately. Because I feel like I've gone through so many things, pero more, mubuar na to eh. More, like in a short amount of time. So, akong emotions about it kay, more balance na kay siya. Like if we get work right now, I think it's part of being a professional. Like we know how to tackle it. Or before, we'd be like, okay, you try it. Oh, I'll try it. Or na, more, and then there are times na it'll get heated. Now, no, I hate it. Let's start over again. Or like you'll discuss or argue or things like that. But you'll get there. We got there, and then now we kind of understand our look.
Yes. I mean, it's very distinct. Do you see yourself as a unit? I mean, like, as artists, do you still establish your separate identities, or what's really worked is that you're perceived as one, like you're a duo?
So it's strange. I have no ambitions of being an artist by myself. So I want to be known as a duo. Pero where the thing that we struggle with right now is because we also have a studio. It's also named Happy Garaje. But then, naman ko so there's like the commercial space where they ask you to do design work and everyone works on it. And then there's like the art space in galleries where you don't want other people working with you and they say like, it has to be your work. So there's that too.
Yeah. How do you navigate around that when it requires you to, it has to be you, not Happy Garaje?
Kinda, so we call ourselves Happy Garaje, me and Joe. But we call the studio like Happy Garaje Design Studio Co. And then for some, like I always link back, like we should have started a new studio, no? But I don't know, like paperwork, daghan na kayo.
It's just admin stuff.
Yeah.
We already registered as Happy Garaje, and then it's kind of like the same thing. So na siya. So a lot of people get confused and need explanations, like especially galleries, because we do a lot of work for galleries now. I don't know why, but we're and they go like, oh, so kinsa man gyud ang artist? Ano, is it you or her, or do you work with a team? Ano. So yeah, we get those questions. So we need to explain.
How did you come up with Happy Garaje, by the way?
So the place was a garage at first.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So it was that. And mostly BIR decided for us because we sent
You sent three
we
options.
sent names and they said, yeah, this makes sense, ana sila. So okay.
Was it BIR or DTI? BIR.
BIR really
BIR.
determined our
Right.
future.
Yeah.
It determined our
Name.
future, Bear. I was wondering, Mark, like, because you said you never really aspired to become an artist as an individual, and that what's really working for you both is that you're a duo, you're a team, and I love how you're making that work. But what are the implications of that in your dynamic and your relationship as a couple?
What do you mean, like?
How does working together affect you both, like as partners, as in not just as artists but as individuals?
So like the art making to me is like when we're making sculpture or when we're making painting, I'm not thinking so much. I'm just making. And that part I really like because it's peace of mind for me. It's like, what is stress ba? Whereas design work is super stressful. This client, I have to explain to the client. I have to think about the client. Will the client like this or not? Um, but also, that's the only that's not the only part, but it's the best part about making art for me. And then the other thing that I get satisfaction out of, and sorry, I listened to Larry, and then it's when he said that when you put your work out there and people appreciate it, or people interact with it, or people get something out of it, you know what it is. It's like the privilege of being an artist, right? Like no one else gets that. So I think that part, I also get that. So ang part na you can tell stories, that's very important to me. Kana bang that I can tell stories as part of my life. Like I can, you know what it is, right?
Yeah,
Like I make a song and tell you something about, and it might reach you in a different way that I intended, but it kind of affects you.
I told my story.
Yeah.
Does it strengthen your relationship as a couple, or like working together? How are you able to like give each other feedback? I'm just really curious about the dynamic, because it's, I think, a rarity that you guys work together, but it also works very well for you.
When we do something, for example, and I try a different palette of color, it's a very nerdy thing to say for an artist. But if Joe doesn't like it, like automatically, I'm like, I'll try this color. And then I'm like, maybe she'll like it, maybe she'll not. But if she doesn't like it, she'll say, like, hey, it's not, I don't like this color. I don't feel this color. And I don't know what she has because she sees color in differently from me. Like I'm very graphic. The color means a lot to her. So she'll feel really strongly about it if it's not in the right color. And she'll tell me, I'm like, okay, we'll change it. And then that's a lot of it is really compromise for both of us. Like, like I would try something out, and then, so like, for example, we've been making a lot of toys. Like, I mean, we call it
Yes.
toys, right?
Yeah,
Like these small sculptures. But like the industry, like whatever, like the galleries call it toys for some reason. So we make those. So sometimes you have to make like an edition. So I have to sculpt them like 5 times, and then Joe has to paint them 5 times. And she really doesn't like that. He feels like, I know, but she does it because she knows that I like doing those things. Maybe more than her, pero like, it's part of our trying things out. More give and take kid siya. But I know like she'd rather be, painting or spending time with her daughter. Pero like, Joe, please paint this for me because
I think there's a lot of trust in the way you both work, because she's kind of found her space and you honor that she looks at colors differently from the way you do, and you also have your thing. Going back to like how distinct your art is and the way it looks, like what's the process behind there? Like why do they look the way they look? I'm just curious, like, because to me there's a lot of like playfulness and element of being childlike in the way you execute things, and I want to understand if that's in any way related to, I don't know, either your childhood or your relationship, or like what inspires that kind of look.
so it's like, yes, a lot of it is inspired by childhood. But it's strange as you get older, you sort of, it's farther and farther away from. So like we do this sculpture about like an airplane person, and it's like murag alas 4 iyang hand signals. It's kind of like pamuhi ba? We like, dua
Dismissal
na.
na.
No, no.
Yeah, pamuhi, oh.
Yeah, and then I think when we started making that before, we're like, we still remember it very strongly. But now, kanang, I don't know, 15 years after we started those paintings or those drawings or those toys, kay, mas layo na siya. So it's kind of like the memory of that feeling more than I feel very strongly about that. So I think it changes very subtly as you make art. So kana siya, again, you're just thinking about growing old and kanang, lagi ka na marabag. unsa man imong, what are you making? What are you telling, or what stories are you telling? Mga ano?
Yeah. You mentioned that a lot in our conversation. I think that's kind of been your point of reflection these days. Time. Time. And as you said, Merg, as you evolve as an artist, it seems as if the 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 inspiration attached to these art is becoming a memory of a distant past. And you said, but also at the same time, you said time has allowed you to be able to practice the way you do things. And so now it's easier working with clients. Like, where is that leading you now? Like, if you feel like, you're not able to connect very deeply anymore to that way of executing things, what's next?
So I think we draw about that, like trying to understand this time warp. So like next year, someone's been asking us to kind of like look back at our work. So we made a list, and it seems daghan siya. And that's just one part of your life, and then napakay personal life, and then your childhood, and then your teenage years, and then your high school and your college, and then the time before you started the studio. But then you think about it, like daghan kaya siya na lives, but it's only been like what, 30, 40 years. And then maybe if I live until 80, you'll have experienced through all of that too. But that would also come so quickly because the first 40 came so fast. So that's part of my thinking. Like, so now the work that well, I'm suggesting that we do. I mean, when hey, Joe, I keep thinking about this. Like, and then I make a drawing out of it or make a toy out of it. And then I'm thinking about this, and kanang some imong feelings about Annie. Then we'll have that conversation.
Are we allowed to know unsang visual imagery comes out in your reflection around time and around like the past 30, 40 years or so?
So we've been having so we have to explore we're trying to explore a different medium, maybe. So we've been trying to do like more narratives because I think when you're a child or when you're younger, yung feelings are so mas pure siya. I'm angry, I'm sad, ano ba? But then, so that can be like one painting, one drawing. But when you get older, like you feel so many, more complex kaya mong feeling about things. Kailangan siya layers. Like even when you see a friend that you've been through a lot, like there were those, like you used to be like, hey, I love this friend, like he's my best friend, and then if you've been through a lot, and then now may ups and downs, so that's also part of your ana, so mas kalma na when you talk to each other or something. I don't know, like those things. So now we're trying to make more like narratives, and not really like, so like Larry, I've been trying to work with Larry on a book. And that's what we're trying to do also, like kanang mga na types of things. So we just feel like more na among response, like, yeah, maybe it's not a painting, maybe it's a series of paintings or na kunang connected yun siya.
Do you have like a favorite medium? Like you do sculptures, you do paintings, you do illustrations. What kind of art is your favorite one?
Wala raman, like I just go back and forth with it. Yeah. And then the illustration is fun because you work with someone else. I mean, if it's a good client or if it's a good art director. So like, lahi po siya. Like, lahi siya na timpla ba. Then when you're working together, like kanang amo arang personal work, it's different also. Yeah. So I feel like the what we do is, the like the painting or the sculpture kay is just I feel like I want to tell a story, and then we pick how to tell it. Like if we could sing, we'd probably sing, but we can't. So
It's okay. There's technology.
Have you had like a favorite piece that is really meaningful to you, and what would it be?
I think like yeah, it's so strange. Kay, I do have favorites. Kay Moraba, but they're favorites because they mark certain points in our life. Murag, I like this painting a lot. This was the time when ani. So they mean a lot to me because mo ni ang time na gibuhat na ko ni siya kasi we were going through this.
Okay, so
It's attached to a
yeah,
memory.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not super like technical. Like we're not very technical artists. Not realist or kanang mga crazy. No,
Yeah.
not.
I think it's also like a common element that some of our guests have shared, that their form of expression is very intuitive. It's not cerebral, but it's more intuitive. You talked earlier about how certain pieces kind of, there's no longer an attachment because it's a distant memory. I've always wondered how artists feel about letting go of their art. You know, you mentioned it's also very fulfilling when, you know, you get feedback and a client appreciates what you created, and there's also fulfillment in there. But has there been any type of work of art that you got attached to and you had a hard time letting go? And how is that process like?
Yeah, I think from time to time, si Jo more than me. Like she feels attached. Or like there's one time we had a sculpture na was in our studio for the longest time, and then my daughter wouldn't let it go.
Oh.
Like dili niya pabaligya.
Pabaligya.
Oh, dili niya pabaligya. So I feel that way more before than now. I'm not super attached to the work now because I can make it again.
That's right.
Pero I appreciate na I made it during that time. Or I don't know if what do you call that? I'm not sure. It's probably someone probably wrote something about this artist psyche about letting go of work. Pero sa una, you would feel that more than now.
And do you understand like what made you feel detached now? And like your mindset now is more, I can do that anyway. I can do that again anyway.
Well, I only said that because more like it's my way of, I guess I feel like the experience of making art, that's the best thing for me. And I feel very lucky that I can do it because like I don't know how we got here and kind of like it's been a jumble. And then so I wake up, I go to the wood shop, make stuff, and then when Joe wakes up, we work on an illustration or a painting or we work with the design team, and then the day ends, and then the next day is another point. So it's like a continuous cycle of making things. And to me, mura siya, I feel very thankful that I'm able to do that. And then like more and more kids like work with us now. And I get a lot of, I don't know, besides all the jargon and the Gen Z speak,
The Gen Z speak.
lahi po nila energy. I understand it like marag, I know that energy.
What does creating mean to you? Because earlier we were having a conversation outside the studio around how for artists there's really that craving, or I would say that like that deep desire to constantly create. And what does it mean to you? Like I assume like you would see yourself, you know, doing this all your life. It's what you're meant to do. But yeah, what does it mean for you?
I mean, I was just talking to this, but the same thing with Micah and Larry ganina. Like the thing, because we were talking about work, yan ang motor of working every day and making this every day. Sometimes we take it for granted. Pero, kana siya, like I can't see myself not doing it. Like if I had to do something else, I don't know how I would feel about it. Or I would probably find a way to do it. So mura siya, I don't know, it's just natural for me to think about something. And every person, I mean, that's the great thing about being a human being, I guess. Like artists, they see something and then they want to make things. But like when we do design work and we work with entrepreneurs or business people, like they also have that mindset. And they see a spot or something and they can imagine it, become something different or more na sila vision ba. So uh, I feel like, like the act of creation is like very human.
That's very profound. I want to touch on because you mentioned that your daughter, correct? Your daughter not wanting to have that piece sold. And it must be amazing to be in a family with parents as artists. Like, what a dream. Yeah. I mean, I love my mom and dad, but what a dream. I just want to know like how is it like, I guess, how is your practice as an artist, how does it affect you as a father, and how is it like, raising a child in a very creative household?
I mean, playtime is fun. And we have as much fun playing with pareha rami, like mami both. So like the whole household is kind of all kids. So I mean, me, Joe, and Summer. So um, I don't know. Like I only have one kid. I don't even know if I'm doing it correctly,
Nobody knows it.
right? So I'm like, we do things that are, I guess, there are times when we like my when she was very young, and it was very surprising to me. Like she started making her own picture books with her. And then like all of these stories. So I also remembered myself, and Joe also remembered herself pagkabata niya. So more like those things are encouraged in our household, I guess. More like I mean, more like natural to her. And I don't even know that. I don't, more like tanaw na ko, more like para niya, more like, maybe she thinks like all young artists are raised this way or mga na. But it's okay to be weird in our house. More like, siya, like
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Aw, I wish I had that household.
I mean, yeah, but the drawback is you're not so rich. Like, okay, may kwarta. But you have a lot of art or mga anas, yeah.
Is it very different? I mean, I just want to connect it back to your childhood. How is your Summer is her name? How is Summer's childhood or upbringing, I guess, different from how it was for you? And what is it about fatherhood that you enjoy the most?
I guess it was different circumstance wise. And also, like, I feel like my relationship with they were good parents with difference, yeah. Whereas this is the part where I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. So we're like friends, like me and my daughter. So she'll tell me honestly, she doesn't like this. And I'm saying like it's good for you, and then she doesn't believe me.
Okay,
Oh my
authority.
gosh, this
Yeah.
is not. So we're ana na parts like, oh, I think I'm not doing this correctly. So there's no real big authority figure in our house, and we have to find other ways. Kay mastorya man gyud siya na no. I don't think na I should do this, but no, you should. Believe me, ano na. Yeah, and then I guess that's also the part where I I appreciate the most about being a parent. Having just had that whole small family relationship. Uh, and then more actually changed po siya nako. Like when we had a kid, like before we had a daughter, I was super ambitious, I guess. Pero like now, I had now have a baseline in my life. Or about I got like not actually baseline. Like before, I like it's just me and Joe. It's like we can be like super not have anything, but we can also like go super high. Uh, I don't know if you get that, but yeah, I'm not explaining it properly, but yeah, like family is important to me. It's a big part of uh, my life.
And now that baseline is what drives you. What
yeah, like I feel like ever since we had a family, like na ako'y baseline na I should be able to, like my kid should be able to go to a school that she likes. And then she should be, ano ba, kanang, we're not rich or anything, pero comfy and then comfortable. I mean, dili kay siya maglisod ba sa iyang life. That's my goal. And then, ana siya. And then, so, that also affected our practice sa studio because now, sige na ko think sad like the people that work with us in that way. Like, na-change akong mindset. Like before, like gung-ho kayo, like, yeah,
Wala lang,
like,
rock on.
like, we're Jack Sparrow or we're pirates or whatever.
Yeah.
But it changed and it affected me so much pag pandemic bitaw. Because we had like a long period of time where the design studio didn't have work. It's probably like 7, 8 months kay. We kept saying na, balik lagi na next week. Wala man.
Yeah.
So, and then it came to a point where, so there are two designers that work for me. And then one of them has worked for us for 7 years now. And then katong time sa pandemic, mo close. I mean, we were there. Like I was spending our life savings to make sweldo. So kana na point, I never thought of it that way. Kaya na may dagang projects like pre-pandemic and then we would make salary and ana. So that point was like, hey, this person has spent 7 years of her life working with us. And then it just ends that way.
Yeah.
And me as the leader of this, I guess, business, hasn't even thought about like on some future, like how will she retire or does she need to go somewhere else or mga ano ba? So those are like, I guess those are like adulting stuff that I thought
Yeah.
about.
But I think that's already like you questioned earlier about you're not sure if you're doing it right. I mean, you're not just the father of your child or summer, but also your studio and there's a very natural or innate concern about people and even the way you design your model. Whereas we're going to nurture our interns here. This is where we hone your skills and then you guys spread your wings because it's an incubation in the studio.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's not like an attachment thing. Like, I keep you, instead it's, I let you go.
Part of it is like knowing na, like I always want to be creating stuff. And if I wanted to grow the studio, I would have to leave that and become sort of like a person who scales up the studio.
Yeah.
Because no one else, Joe's not going to do it. She loves paintings too much. And then, so, kana siya was like, yeah, anisay na lang.
You facilitate a way
I
where
always
you can...
want to be an artist until I retire. I don't want to be detached from the art. Because that's what it's going to take for us to grow the studio. Is like, I have to be away, not making. And sort of like not working all the time.
I love that clarity, Mark. As in, I think you have a very strong set of values and that clarity of how important it is for you to create.
Yeah.
You design your life around that value.
I love that too.
Amazing.
So, with all of your stories and all of that, and you've shared so much, do you still have something?
No,
it's
I love
okay.
it.
No, we love it. But is there still something else that you can consider as your like big takeaway from your life that you can share with us since our show is about
My big takeaway. I think I appreciate people and friends and friendship and stories. Like those are big things in my life. Like if someone comes to me and tells, I meet someone or a stranger or some person I've not seen for a while or someone who I see every day and then they just take the time to, story lang. I mean, I like those moments in life now. I appreciate that. And then I appreciate kind of like having friends, having family. Like to me, I don't know, I'm like just a simple person. I don't, like that's, if we're all okay, then I'm okay. Maragana siya. So that's good.
What about you, Gang? What has been your takeaway here?
There's so many things to digest, but I think my biggest takeaway from this conversation is siguro Mark's humility and groundedness in the value of art in his life. I feel like art has been the anchor not just of his identity, but also how his relationships, but also how he is evolving as a person. And to me, I think I feel envious. I'm envious that you are very clear in your what you're meant to do. I think it's a huge gift. Like, not everyone is born in this world knowing what they're meant to do, and that comes out very clear from you.
It's also my takeaway, I think. Yeah, the knowing that if he does this on the other side, he's gonna lose the art side, and he doesn't want to sacrifice that, because that's what I'm going through. Yeah, so
Aren't we all?
yeah, so yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, I thank you I wanted to touch on you as a parent, because I think that humanizes you. I feel like a lot of people look up to you as an artist, but when I read your stories online, I see so much the side of you as a loving, kind person to your family. I've always kind of perceived you as a family man, and for me, it manifests so much in the kind of art that you guys do. So yes, thank you for sharing your work and your story with us today.
Mark. Thank you so much. Episode 7.
Yes, this rounds up our episode today, and see you again for our next episode.
Yes, and thank you so much. This has been What's Your Takeaway?